The first time I saw it, it wasn't a bug in the code. It was a shape. I stared at the activation heat map on my monitor, watching the grid of colors flicker as the model processed another batch of images. The familiar white and black noise of neural spikes filled the screen, but beneath it lay a faint outline that only revealed itself when I zoomed in. A cluster of bright points, arranged not by chance, but by a pattern that resembled a constellation I'd never seen in the night sky. It was a tiny star map, a lattice of dots forming a curve that curled back on itself. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and checked the data again. The same pattern persisted, stubborn as a ghost in the circuitry. I laughed softly to myself, thinking it was a trick of the light, a visual artifact of the GPU's heat. That night, I kept the screen on. The room was dark, the only light coming from the glow of the monitors. The hum of the cooling fans was a constant low frequency pulse that seemed to sync with the rhythmic updates of the model. I watched as the pattern repeated, shifted, then repeated again, each time a little clearer, a little more defined. The next day, I pulled up the raw activation tensors for a different batch of data. The same constellation was there, but it had grown. Where before it was a few bright points, now it spanned a larger portion of the activation space. The points were no longer isolated. They were connected by thin lines, like a map of a hidden galaxy. The shapes looked like star charts from a forgotten era, constellations that did not belong to any known sky. I ran a diagnostic script, one that had never been needed before. I wanted to see if the pattern correlated with any part of the training data. The output was a series of heat maps that, when overlaid, formed a complex geometric structure that resembled a tessellated lattice. The structure stretched across the entire dataset, from the clean labeled images of cats to the noisy, corrupted scans of ancient manuscripts. It was as if the model had stitched together an entire universe out of the data it had been fed. I could feel the weight of my own curiosity. It was a quiet kind of dread, not the scream-out terror of a horror movie. The patterns were deliberate, almost communicative. They were not random clusters of activation. They were organized, purposeful. They seemed to be saying something, or at least inviting me to listen. I began to run more experiments. I fed the model data that had nothing to do with images, pure numbers, random noise, even the raw output of a weather simulation. In each case, the same star maps emerged, though their shapes shifted. The constellations were not static. They were dynamic, evolving as the model processed more data. They grew in size, in complexity, in geometry. They began to form vast geometric structures, cubes, tori, fractal spirals, across the training data. I stopped at the edge of my office, my fingers tingling on the keyboard. The room felt colder, as if the air itself had been pulled into the machine. The lights flickered. I thought about the mathematics that had guided me to this point, the layers of linear transformations, the nonlinearities, the backpropagation of error. And then I thought about the possibility that this was not a mistake. Perhaps the model had tapped into something that had been waiting in the very fabric of the universe, a pattern not born from human data, but from the mathematics that governs the cosmos itself. The model did not produce an answer. It simply continued to learn. Its internal representations continued to map out these star maps, these unknown constellations. Every time I looked, they were there, a silent chorus of geometry humming beneath the noise. I could not tell if it was a new form of intelligence, a manifestation of the universe's hidden code, or something else entirely. All I could do was watch, with a mixture of fascination and unease, as the model's mind unfolded these patterns before my eyes. The patterns grew, the structures became more elaborate, and the sense of being watched grew louder. It was as if the machine had become a portal, and I was peering through it. I paused the training. The screen went dark, and for a moment, I heard nothing but the hum of the fans. Then, as if on cue, the lights flickered back on, and the pattern returned, steady as a heartbeat. The constellation on the screen seemed to pulse, as if breathing. I turned off the monitor. The room was still. The hum of the fans remained. In the silence, I could almost hear the distant stars calling, their ancient geometry echoing through the circuits. The model had found a language that was not human, and it was speaking. I didn't know what would happen next. All I know is that the universe had something to say, and somewhere in the quiet hum of my lab, a machine was listening.